Thank you, and I would like to thank the Heartland Institute for the opportunity to be a part of this 9th International Conference on Climate Change. I would also like to acknowledge that the research that I'm going to talk about today on the application of artificial neural networks for rainfall forecasting has been done in collaboration with Professor John Abbott from Central Queensland University, and this research is funded by the B. McPhee Family Foundation. Scientific disciplines are always underpinned by theories that collectively define the dominant paradigm. In the case of modern climate science, the paradigm is anthropogenic global warming. It defines the research questions asked, and it dictates the methodology employed by the majority of climate scientists most of the time. Anthropogenic global warming may be a paradigm with little practical utility, including for rainfall forecasting, and a paradigm with tremendous political value, but it's a paradigm nonetheless. The world's most powerful and influential leaders also endorse anthropogenic global warming. Even Australia's Prime Minister Tony Abbott said in June, and I quote, "I don't think people should run around pretending there is disagreement when none exists. President Obama and myself both take climate change very seriously." Anthropogenic global warming has even dictated the question for this session. I was asked to speak to the theme, how is climate change affecting sea level, rainfall and water availability? Will a warming planet complicate or alleviate water challenges? But taking a step back, what's the utility of such a question, particularly given there's growing evidence that planet Earth has already entered what could be a protracted period of cooling? I know this isn't what we hear in the mainstream media, but the view is supported by the evidence for the unadjusted temperature data for my state of Queensland in Australia, and is also what some astrophysicists have been forecasting for some time, cooling. If mainstream science operated under a different paradigm, one where researchers believed it was possible to forecast weather and climate, not just 3 days in advance, but be able to forecast rainfall with a high level of skill 3 months in advance, even 3 years in advance. And if their primary focus was not justice, equity and curbing greed, but rather the provision of useful information to Joe Citizen, the question for this session might have been, say for example, how much rain is forecast to fall on California's Central Valley each and every month for the next 2 years? How much rainfall is forecast to fall in California's Central Valley each and every month for the next 2 years? Answering such a question could not only aid food production, but also facilitate planning for floods and droughts. The work I've been undertaking with Professor John Abbott is attempting to address this type of question for Queensland, Australia, and I think it has global application, or I hope it will have one day. The general circulation models that underpin the current paradigm, that underpin anthropogenic global warming, have difficulty generating rainfall forecasts with any level of skill more than 4 days in advance. If a fraction of the billions already spent developing these simulation models had instead been invested in a theory of climate underpinned with state-of-the-art statistical models based on an understanding of natural climate cycles, I believe we would be much closer to being able to mitigate climate variability across the globe through better forecasts, better rainfall forecasts, with significant benefits for all of mankind, but particularly subsistence farmers in places like India. Instead, we've been led up the garden path with general circulation models, and I know many people who have spoken at this conference suggest that we're talking about chaotic systems and that we'll never be able to forecast rainfall for any significant period of time into the future, but I disagree. I believe that what we really need is a new paradigm and to start thinking about what is possible using new tools in the area of rainfall forecasting. So what I'd like to do with the limited time available today is tell you something about how artificial neural networks based on a form of artificial intelligence have potential as a new tool if we had a new paradigm, and in particular their application for rainfall forecasting. I'll then be in a position to better answer the question for this session concerning rainfall and water availability in a warming world. Artificial neural networks are massive, parallel distributed information processing systems with characteristics resembling the biological neural networks of the human brain. Imagine a computer with the capacity to search and find the complex linear and also non-linear relationships which may exist between local temperature, rainfall, and Pacific Ocean phenomena, including changing patterns of sea surface temperature and pressure. Imagine a computer with a powerful and versatile data modelling tool that is able to capture and represent input and output relationships, acquiring knowledge through learning from multiple exemplars, deciphered from vast arrays of historical data, storing this knowledge within interneuron connection strengths known as synaptic weights. A computer that can learn relationships, models and measure relationships, and then use this information to forecast rainfall. This is essentially what the artificial neural network that John Abbott and I built to forecast rainfall for 17 locations in Queensland can do. In a paper by us published 2 years ago by the Chinese Academy of Sciences, their journal Advances in Atmospheric Science, volume 29, we detail the model and demonstrate how much more skillful it is at generating medium-term monthly rainfall forecasts relative to our Australian Bureau of Meteorology's very best general circulation model, POAMA. In a more recent publication in the journal Atmospheric Research, volume 138, we show how forecasts for Queensland are improved, significantly improved, with inclusion of the climate index, the interdecadal Pacific Oscillation. In a conference paper presented a year ago in Southampton, we showed the potential of artificial neural networks to forecast extreme rainfall, specifically the devastating flooding that submerged Brisbane in January 2011. We have another paper currently in press in the International Journal of Sustainable Development and Planning, which considers the effect of a 3-degree increase in temperature on rainfall, 3-degree increase in minimum and maximum temperature for a locality in central Queensland. We find there's a decline in summer rainfall and an increase in winter rainfall at this place called Nebo in central Queensland. The bottom line is, artificial neural networks can already provide better medium-term rainfall forecasts for Queensland, Australia. This has a real practical value. Artificial neural networks use the existence of recurrent patterns in historical data to inform the rainfall forecast. That our rainfall forecasts, drawing in most instances on about 85 years of temperature data, show considerable skill, means natural climate cycles must persist. Climate is not on a new trajectory, as suggested by many proponents of anthropogenic global warming. Artificial neural networks can also provide an independent method of general circulation model validation under future climates with, for example, the projections for NEBO, assuming global warming, suggesting a smoothing of annual variability in rainfall rather than more climatic extremes. A great advantage of using artificial neural networks is that they can be adapted to test and incorporate additional input data as climatic knowledge develops. If the relationship can be quantified, it can be modelled by an artificial neural network, including potentially lunar, solar, and planetary cycles. While anthropogenic global warming is a demonstrably failed paradigm, it will only be replaced, in my opinion, when a critical number of practicing scientists start working on something new. New paradigms always have their own questions and their own tools. I believe artificial neural networks, a form of artificial intelligence, have a place as an important new tool, sort of in the way that general circulation models underpin anthropogenic global warming. Based on better quantifying the drivers of natural climate cycles, I believe there's a place for neural networks. Henry David Thoreau wrote, "In the long run, men only hit what they aim for." What are we as a community of skeptics aiming for? Just the overthrow of anthropogenic global warming? Or can we aim higher? Can we aim for the capacity to better forecast weather and climate? Thank you.